Welcome back to another episode of Who Should You Choose, the video series where I go through the prior videos, questions, and comments and help you with your HUT lineup decisions. We are on to a new week, and it looks like we're getting the Warp Speed event. That is what's up next, which I think has the potential to be really good, simply because it'll be like 99 skaters with free gold skating abilities if it works like the Sharpshooters event. And well, I guess technically that would be lame in the sense that all these cards have 99 speed and things like that, if that's how it actually plays out. Regardless, it'll be cards that are interesting to chase after. Obviously, speed kind of dictates everything in, well, pretty much every sports game outside of MLB, even with MLB. And MLB is coming very shortly as well. We're about 11 days away from the launch of MLB The Show, the early access one. I'll be doing a subathon more than likely, where I just keep my stream live for as long as the timer is. Last time I did an MLB subathon, it lasted 40 days. Don't expect that again, but might do it for a week. Who knows? I did it for NHL, and I had a lot of fun, and MLB is my second favorite game, probably. All right, let's get into today's questions. We're going to start first with Condor. He's got a lineup question. He says, Team of the Week, McKinnon, Larkin, McDavid, Ovi, Zetterberg, Rantanen, so pre-stack squad. I was thinking of making Kyuou. Do I do anything else or just wait? And what is the best collectible pack to spend my extra Sharpshooter collectibles on? Also, we need those team builder packs back in the store so I can get Linden. So in terms of should he get Kyuou, this is what I was talking about in my ranking video, where I mentioned that Kyuou is an S tier card if you don't have an elite option already. So if you didn't have Team of the Year McKinnon, and I would throw Ovi into that mix as well, that Team of the Week Ovi is just really good. The thing about Ovi, though, is there will be if he breaks the record, there will be a 99 or whatever milestone Ovechkin. It's going to be junk because we're going to have to pay for it, and it's going to be hard to acquire, and it's going to probably only be available in packs, which is Bush League. Again, MLB The Show, when Pujols hit his 700th home run, just gave him away. Gave him away. Everyone plays the game. Everyone knows it's an exciting moment. Just let us play. Anyways, that being said, Ovi is one of the better cards. I probably would not get Kyuou here because it would push one of those cards down to your third line, which is fine. Like, that would be an elite third line. You're just not really maximizing on your resources right now. On your defense, you've got Makar, ASP, and Pionk, Keller, Hughes, and Heiskin. You kind of a stacked team regardless. So I would not make Kyuou, and I would just wait for the Speedster event, which is funny because Kyuou should have been in that. He's one of the fastest skaters. And then what would you spend your extra collectibles on? I don't know if you have you don't have X Factor, McDavid. You don't, here's the thing. It's funny. You don't have Nylander. The reason why I like Nylander so much is because his X Factor captain card is already so good. 95 speed and excel with gold elite edges at 91 overall is fantastic. He's probably not going to get an upgrade for months now based on progression and how they release content. But nonetheless, even if he doesn't, he's usable for quite some time. So you could do like the multiple 75 and above or 77 and above. I just go with at this stage now, you can't make 87s or 86s, right? You can't because they're specific for that event. So the only thing you could do is that final one where it's like 40 collectibles for multiple 85s or 86s. My memory's drawing a blank right now, but that's probably the one that I would go with, not the event-specific stuff that we saw earlier on in the year. The market is so weird right now, Sleeves, so I was wondering if buying a ton of 86s and 87s for future events at a low price they're at right now. Here's the thing. This will change. I think it's going to change with this event. I'm not saying go out and blow all your coins, but if the event stays the same as the other events have. So when cards go up +1 overall, we're into March now, so the Warp Speed event will be 92 overall items, which means that if we go off of Sharpshooter and Nations of Hockey and how those events worked, it was 83s and then it was 84 overalls is the barrier for entry. And the problem is that they introduced event-only items that are 86 and above that are required to make the 88s. That's where the big problem is because that demolished 85s, 86s, and 87s when you needed 88 overall event items, right? Like they're all the same as 84s. So when things go up to 85, now the 84s lose all value. In all honesty, if you're not taking part in the Kyuou event or whatever, or the Kyuou event, I would sell your 84s. Because I don't think 84s will be the barrier of entry. I think it'll be 85s, and they just go up +1, and that's just how it's going to work. And then that would also mean that 89s would be, God, that's tough. 89s would be required because you need 3 from the specific event, and then you need 2, just whatever 89 overall. Man, the value does not play out like it does in prior years, because when you get into the higher overall, early on, it's fine. But when you get into the higher overalls, like an 89 overall card is expensive, man. And it's not that it's expensive, it's tough to pull. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to pull an 89. You can pull 86s and 87s fairly easily with some of the sets and whatnot, but it's just tough. So I think everything will go up +1. I don't think 86s and 87s will have a ton of value because all that's going up is the floor, right? So 85s are necessary. So 85s will probably go up in price. I don't think 86s, 87s will see that big of an increase until it's like May, right? And those are the barrier of entry. Hey, Sleeves, after this Sharpshooter event, do you think warp speed will be run the same? 99 speed and gold wheels, or gold edges, or gold puck on a string? Do you think 88s will be useless and then move on to 89s because I can make one for free? Also, could Ryan Getzlap be a team builder? This is exactly what I was just talking about. So it's funny that this was sectioned this way. Ryan Getzlap, I think he's in the alumni list. I know that there's an issue when a player retires, that the year that they retire, there's like a very small window to get into the alumni association, into the game. I can't remember if he retired this year or last year. It's got to be last year. So I don't know if he's in the game. If he's in the alumni list, Ryan Getzlaf would be a perfect team builder, for sure. It's something that, you know what's funny? I think that this is where they should look at team builders, is like the recently retired popular players with one team. So Getzlaf, I always think about Ginla just because one of my favorite players, and now obviously he's been in the alumni a long time, but like that would be one. Bergeron's a perfect, like next year, we don't want the same players getting team builders, things like that. Yeah, Bergeron would be a perfect one. So that would be sweet. Do you think 88s will be useless and they will move on to 89s? Yes. If it stays the same as it was, and there has been no evidence that they will actually stay the course with event cycles, and we've seen it a number of times. But if it does, 88s will be useless. Hey, Sleeves, if you had to make a defensive pair from the Sharpshooter event for your third pair, who are you choosing? Dewey or Bouchard for a right-hander, or Dunahan for a left-hander? Love the content. Keep the great work. Drew Doughty and Bouchard is literally whoever you think is your favorite player between the two. I personally would go Bouchard because I can't stand Drew Doughty. And between Dunn and Hannafin, I have Vince Dunn. Easy Hannafin. Hannafin with Gold Heatseeker is a better version of Ray Bork, in my opinion. So I would, Hannafin is, if I wasn't making Kyra or Nylander, it'd be Hannafin. Hey, Sleeves, I've been watching you since you started. Big fan, and this is my first comment because I think this may be a cool question for and story for people like me. I played launch until fantasy events. That was pretty quick. And started playing again during Four Nations. I got the fantasy hockey Sorelli, B&D, and haven't checked since I opened his pack. Was happily surprised to see I have 99. Rest of my team filled out very easily with how much I got over the last week or so. I have Sorelli, a few guys over 86, and the rest 86s. My question is, what should I do with all the low-level cards in the 70s? Are they still used for set fodder, or are those low levels now just used for quick sell and auction? I also have my pre-order points to buy packs and 300,000 coins, and really no clue where to pick up from where I left off. Any help would be appreciated. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Okay. Your pre-order points, God, I wouldn't spend those until they come back with like, watch my content. I always point out when the packs are worth it, right? But you're looking at like, yeah, I can't think of any packs off the top of my head. Like the X Factor one, or the Team Builder ones where they give out 86 overalls. Like that would be an interesting one because you guarantee yourself a card, things like that. In terms of filling out your team, take advantage of, or wait for this new event to come out, and then look and see if 88 overalls are no longer required. They will plummet in price. And for anyone that is brand new to the game, or maybe you started around the holiday season, you've got a pretty mid team, you'll be able to make a decent team with 88 overalls. And maybe that's like, it's funny because like maybe that's what they're trying to do. Like maybe they're on purpose trying to tank the value of majority of these cards so that people can acquire them for a decent price, and we just haven't like adjusted to that. You know, I'm not saying that's good, right? This is the big issue with not having open communication with the developers. Like if someone could sit down when a new event comes out and goes, "Hey, what's the vision here? And the developer goes, well, this is why we picked sharpshooters, because we saw that shooting accuracy for these players is super high. Maybe we don't agree with it still, but it's like, okay, I guess. And maybe going to the event 86 overalls, they're like, yeah, we wanted new players to be able to get new cards as opposed to just these cards being stuck at a benchmark price. It's very expensive. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out and guess. And maybe this is just what it is, right? So, when in terms of your coins, with 300,000 coins, you can probably get a new Master Set player item. Like, I don't know if you'll be able to do it tradable, it'd be close, but you might be able to get a new item. But when the Warp Speed event comes out, you could spend that 300,000 coins to get a bunch of 88s to fill out your team. Ace leaves a lineup question. Do you think I should make any of the modern or vintage icons or keep my fodder for upcoming events? He's got Lemieux, Gretzky, McDavid, Heisey, Zetterberg, Kucherov, Kyrou, Larkin, not on forward. ASP and Hedman, Four Nations Fox, Four Nation Taves, Weber and Theodore. God, your right-handed D option. The right-handed defensive options from holograms. I know I'm forgetting it. Is it just Chelios? Because Orr is left-handed. Lidstrom and Niedermeyer are both left-handed. The answer is no. They are not worth it. Like, they just don't upgrade, right? And because the issue with year-long upgradable cards, right, is the fact that we haven't figured out the meta and things like that at launch of the game. And a lot of the times it's like abilities at launch of the game that were good in prior games. Make It Snappy is a prime example. It's not for anyone that likes Make It Snappy. I know I harp on it a lot. There's no way to argue that it is not nearly as effective as last year. Last year, it was an automatic goal because the game just didn't register wrist shots. This year, it tends to do that. I know to snipe all the time, and I didn't last year, right? Things like Heat Seeker. Heat Seeker was like okay in prior games. Now it's like not a necessity, but because it activates on D2D one-timers, and you can take wrist shots that are dangerous and will just go in. It's, you know what I mean? This is what I'm talking about. So a lot of these year-long cards, they don't have like what we want now, and you're just stuck year-long with them, and their endurance is always ass. I personally wouldn't. Save for future events. Slave, should I make the 91 team of the week Ovi or wait for a milestone card when he breaks Gretzky's record? Well, when he breaks Gretzky's record, it would be like the beginning of April. So that's a ways away. And again, when that happens, EA's not going to give out a card. They're going to try and capitalize. So it's going to be like, you know what it'll be? It'll be like the Nick Lardis card in the store, where maybe it's not just randomly in packs. It'll be like, here's Ovechkin's card. You can buy him for 350,000 coins or $80. Like, that's what I think it'll be. Awful, but that's what it'll be. So again, he's going to break the record. I mean, I don't know. He's Alex Ovechkin, and it's just insane what he's doing. I would assume beginning of April. Worst event of the year has to be the 2000s. The Sharpshooter event is fine, but the player choices absolutely make no sense. In my last video, I started out by asking you guys, what is the worst event in HUT? Right, just objectively, what was the worst event? The 2000s event, it's so unfortunate because if they just reversed the 2000s event and the Gallery of Greats event, it would have been fantastic. Because we know when Team of the Year comes, right? We know when Team of the Year comes, everyone hoards everything. Team of the Year cards are always among the best or the best, right? And because the community is just smarter, the player base is smarter, we know what's happening, everyone just holds on to it. The Gallery of Greats event, in a vacuum, awful because it destroyed the value of any cards that got free abilities. We talked about that a ton. But in a vacuum, was the best event because it got you cards that were the highest overall, free abilities out of nowhere. And if they just would have put that event right before Team of the Year, people would have had to sit there and just be like, okay, maybe I can make enough for Team of the Year to make Brett Hull or Yzerman, right? Like, it would have made you think, right? And the thing about the 2000s event that was really good was, again, I talk about this a lot about how the content team has some pretty good ideas. They're just executed horribly in a lot of instances. Again, if they just would have had someone who grinds the game nonstop, or even for just one cycle in the last like 5 years to just be in the room to be like, hey, that's not a good idea, so much better. But one of the things the 2000s event was so good with new players, you could have made 8 MSPs. And while I know a lot of them are not good and a lot of them will be account bound, but I just think about for anyone that started around the holidays, it was pretty easy if you grinded a bunch during those 2 weeks to make all the master set items where you could do that set where you get 8 of them essentially. And if you were to just start your team, now you've got 8 master set items, like you're laughing. And then you have the Gallery of Greats event, and then you have Team of the Year, and it just would have been such a better way to go about it. But because Gallery of Greats was so good that the next event, no matter what happened after it, there's no way it could be topped. It was just just killed it immediately. And then especially when you know that Team of the Year is next, like if they just would have flipped those, it would have been unreal, right? It would have. But the 2000 event's a good one. To be fair, Matthews has done dog water this season, but should def have a better MSP. The reason why I highlighted this comment, Jeremy Roenick has had an awful decade and has more cards is the issue. that killed me. To be fair, he did get a cover athlete MSP at launch of the game at 85 overall. The Austin Matthews situation is more about just a lack of we want a bunch of McDavid cards. We want a bunch of our favorite players that we see regularly. And Matthews has not had a great season, for sure. But I don't know when the perfect time to do a master set player item is, right? Matthews' MSP early on was great. It was fun, right? But it should never be 5 months until the next. Austin Matthews should be one of the highlighted players of all time, at all times, right? Where is Gretzky and Lemieux upgrades? They better shoot up to 93. If they only go up to 91 with lower tier cards going to 93, it is crazy. Again, the reason why I wanted to highlight this is I find it a bit insulting. The 2 best players of all time are constantly so low this year. The one thing I enjoyed from last year's format where every power-up icon went up +1 every month was that it ensured that Gretzky and Lemieux were among the highest, right? And Gordie Howe were the highest, as they should be. I remember one of the old philosophies from the old content team, my man Nick. Shout out to Nick, no longer with NHL. And one of the things that he wanted to ensure was McDavid's speed, right? McDavid's fastest player in the game with the puck. And one thing that he wanted to ensure, he came up with the speed only goes up by 0.5 when you do an overall increase. And the reason for that was because once McDavid hit 99 very quickly, his skating started so high, it would already hit 99 very fast. He loses the advantage very quickly back in the old ways where you would get to 99 speed very fast because they would go up by 0.1 or +1 every time, right? So because it went up by 0.5, every other card needed to go by 2 to get full 1 upgrade. It kept McDavid skating the highest in the game for the longest period of time. And the same philosophy can be said about the highest overalls, right? Like Gretzky and Lemieux, they should be the highest. The way they've handled year-long chase cards, like I said, very concerning. I just think that we're going down a path where they just want to remove them entirely and just go entirely to an event format. And there is some positives to that for the super casual player. Like, you could just take part in the latest event, get some pretty good cards, and you're good. You're never going to go up against the stacked teams that have these god squads. But, man, there's so many of us that want to grind the game a ton. Because I voice for the casual player quite a bit because I realize that is 90% of the player base. You can't ignore the top 10 though. That's what taking away the year-long chase cards is. Like, if you have no ultimate chase, it turns it into like Versus almost. And well, I miss Versus. I grew up on Versus. There's nothing wrong with that. You can't say that Versus is not far more boring and killed off as a mode because of HUT, where you build your team gradually, right? And it's just video games. Like, you play franchise mode to slowly grow your team. HUD is the exact same thing. Ultimate Team is the exact same thing. And I just really feel like they're just trying to absolutely remove all of the year-long chase cards from before and go entirely to an event. That's just really what I see playing out. But that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.